My name is Joe Bolkcom. I'm a member of the Senate. I'd like to recognize Sarah McCoy from here in Des Moines, Senator Hatch from here in Des Moines, two leaders on the issue of medical cannabis, and two leaders here that are working to make things happen. I want to introduce three people, and then I'm going to have them speak in order in which I introduced them. We're really pleased to have with us today Rachael Selmeski. She's a mother of a child benefiting today from medical cannabis. She's a Waterloo native and has relocated with her family and her epileptic daughter to Colorado to get the medicine she needs. She's back in the state for a few days and is gracious enough to spend a little bit of time with us helping move this issue forward. I'd also like to introduce Logan Edwards. Logan's from Davenport. Logan spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. He was deployed to Iraq in 2007 and 2008 and honorably discharged in 2011. Logan suffers from PTSD related to his combat service and has been effectively using cannabis to treat his symptoms. He is in the process, actually, of unfortunately relocating to Colorado. He's in college over in the Quad Cities, and at the end of the semester he'll be moving to Colorado. And then finally, we're really happy to have Don Karr here with us. Don Karr is a Vietnam War veteran. He's a business owner in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and a former member of the Cedar Rapids City Council. He served back in 1966 and 1967 in the Mekong Delta in Da Nang, Vietnam. He's been a leader in the flood recovery efforts in the Cedar Rapids community, has numerous civic involvements, and is a successful business owner, so we're pleased to have him here as well. With that, I recognize Rachael to make some comments.
Hello. This right here is my daughter, and this is what brings me here, so just put that in there. Maggie was born healthy at 6, and then at 6 weeks old she began having full tonic-clonic seizures. This started us down a journey that we never expect, journey of MRIs, hospital stays, EEGs, medication after medication, and a lot of unknowns. By 5 months old, in October of 2012, we were essentially told she probably wouldn't live very long. And that is something that no mother ever wants to hear. At 9 months, infantile spasms were added to her mix, and at this point we still don't have any answers to the whys or what is exactly wrong. But Maggie is dealing with global developmental delays due to her severe and catastrophic epilepsy. Each seizure is one step closer to her prognosis of not living very long. And we basically exhausted all of our options with Western medicine that pharmaceuticals have to offer her. The statistics out there is once you fail 2 anticonvulsants, you have an 8 to 12% chance of finding one that works. Once you fail 4 anticonvulsants, that percentage is dropped to 0.8% chance. My daughter's failed 6 total, and that means her chance of finding an anticonvulsant is basically none. These seizure meds that she's been on have awful side effects, and they ended up requiring more pharmaceuticals to combat those side effects. One of the times we left the hospital, she was on 7 different pharmaceuticals. We've had a crash cart outside of her room when they introduce a new drug to her in case it stops her heart. We have trouble differentiating between what's causing more of her delays, the uncontrolled seizures or the ineffective drugs. She essentially has no hope of finding a pharmaceutical that would work. In November, we knew, knowing her prognosis, we knew we had to do something. At that time, Maggie was 17 months old, and we relocated to Colorado to begin her on Charlotte's Web. It's a particularly high strain of CBD and low in THC cannabis oil. The neurologist that had followed Maggie from the beginning, he agreed with our decision and endorsed our new course of treatment for her. He knew as well as we did there weren't other viable options for her. This right here is what it's all about. This is Maggie's bottle of medicine, and it's a syringe. It's not the vision of smoking or anything else. It's Maggie's medicine in an oil form. All of Maggie's meds are tested for molds, pesticides, and solvents. We know the level of CBD and THC as well as the other cannabinoids in each batch. Even at a low initial dose, we saw immediate results. Since starting the oil, Maggie has become more alert and awakened. She finally has an opportunity at life, an opportunity to grow and develop instead of just trying to stay alive. By 3 months into her treatment, she had at least a 30% reduction in seizures, and we continue to see reductions each week. Not only has the number of seizures have decreased, but the intensity is also greatly diminished. She's becoming stronger and stronger, gaining more trunk control, gaining more head control, strengthening her neck. Before starting cannabis, she literally was a shell of a body. Now she's moving more, vocalizing more, and she has opinion about things, which as a mom, she's almost 2, but we see that as a tremendous blessing. Her appetite's increased, her digestion is improving. The whole entourage effect on her body is absolutely amazing, and there's just not harmful side effects there. We see these daily benefits in Maggie. We're also surrounded by numerous other children in the same exact boat, and I can show you results of an EEG from another child. Kids that have failed everything are finding success with cannabis, and I find that absolutely amazing. But I'm also infuriated to know that there's other children of these parents, that don't have the option. I see in Maggie benefits, and I see Maggie make strides that she wasn't gonna make with a simple plant, a simple medicine, and to know that these parents don't have that option for their children solely because they're still in the state of Iowa. It does not make sense to me. These other children deserve the same chance at life. Maggie's proof it has medicinal value. And as parents of medically fragile children, we're just asking legislators to do their part in addressing this issue. Thank you.
You want me to? Yeah, go ahead. My name is Logan Edwards. I'm an Iraq War veteran. I was served in the Marine Corps for 6 years. I got home from Iraq in 2008 and started noticing some problems with anxiety and insomnia right away. Just being introduced to streetlights again, little things like that was big triggers for me because there wasn't any stopping in Iraq. Just the whole getting back into civilian life was really an anxious experience. I turned to alcohol at first to kind of cope with things that I didn't really know what was going on at that point, but a lot of the other Marines, that's what they were doing as well, was drinking. And so that's what I kind of fell into. And after about a year of continuing to worsen my symptoms and find no relief through alcohol and instead exacerbating many of the symptoms, I turned to the VA, the Veterans Health Administration, and started to get help with counseling and different pharmaceuticals to try to treat the anxiety and the depression and the insomnia and nightmares and things that went along with my symptoms. After almost a year of trial and error with the VA doctors, I found no relief and got to the point of becoming suicidal, in which I checked myself into a veterans hospital specifically to work on those sorts of combat-related issues. And I spent 3 months inpatient, trying different medications and trying different techniques and therapies, everything that the VA had to offer me to try to get me back into, I guess, a more livable lifestyle outside of inpatient care. While I was in inpatient care and tried numerous different medications and still had, no benefit from it, and upon releasing from it, I was telling the VA, I'm no better now than when I came in 3 months ago, except I've just tried a lot of different pharmaceuticals, and they had no answer for me. They said, well, you have to leave, you can't stay here forever, and to try to find some new way to do it. And while I was in there, I spoke with a Vietnam veteran that had told me that cannabis was the only thing he'd used in 40-some years that had given him any help, and that the VA had been saying the same thing to him for over 20 years. And so At that point is when I started to look into medical cannabis, and I thought it was completely legal. I just thought it was something the VA wasn't prescribing to me for whatever reasons. And then I found out that it was illegal in the state of Iowa, and it was on a state-by-state basis on who could get approved for it and who couldn't. So it's at that point that I started to advocate for it here in Iowa. I started using it, and my life turned around completely. I was able to leave the house. I was able to communicate and talk again with my relatives and family and friends that I'd lost connection with when I'd come home, and kind of put myself into hiding because I'm afraid to go outside and things like that. It's helped repair so many relationships. It's helped me become much more of a civil human being. I'm not anxious all the time, and when I become anxious, I become irritable and snappy and aggressive towards people. And it's really allowed me to get back to functioning in life. I'm back in school full time. I'm getting great grades. My attendance is great. Everything in my life is better for me using cannabis. And it's unfortunate that that's illegal. And I've been saying that this is, I wanted this to get done here in Iowa, and I hear a lot of people, use the excuse that it's just stoners trying to get high, and I assure you, I'm not a stoner trying to get high. If that's what my intent was, I would continually do it. I wouldn't talk about it publicly. I wouldn't be moving to Colorado to get high. I could do that here. What I'm moving to Colorado for is treatment. It's for a chance to get better, to heal, because I can't do that here in Iowa. Because of the way the laws are here in Iowa, I'm forced to go to the street where it's black market. And at black market, it's $400 to $450 an ounce, and that same amount in Colorado is $100 an ounce. So the price difference is huge, and then the control issue is even bigger. When I'm in Colorado, I can pick the strains that are specifically designed to help me. Just as there's Charlotte Webb, there's different types of cannabis that help with post-traumatic stress and anxiety. And when I have access to those, and I know that they've been tested, and I know their quality, I can use those to cater and to treat my symptoms a lot more efficiently than just a random bag of who knows what on the streets to try to treat it. And oftentimes when you go to the streets, there's a lot of anxiety involved with that. So after visiting Colorado and signing my lease last week, I decided that I needed to come here and skip a day of school and talk with legislators and let them know that this is serious. There's tons of people leaving the state. You'd be surprised on who's in those dispensaries out there. Lots of your constituents that aren't telling you are driving out there and getting access to this. So that's what I'm here today to do, is talk about my story and how it's affected me and how it's helped my life in a positive.
My name is Don Karr. Served in Vietnam 1966 and 67. Listen to this young man, it's almost like a deja vu. The difference is when I got out of Vietnam in 68, I hadn't smoked marijuana in Vietnam. I was there early and it wasn't that big a deal, and I didn't smoke. I don't smoke or drink. And so I didn't take it, but when I got out, I was struggling with my PTSD, which I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what was wrong with me. I lost my wife. I had a daughter born in Balboa Naval Hospital. I hadn't seen her for a couple of years. I lost my job. I tried to go to Kirkwood and get an education, and I was struggling because I didn't feel in place. I felt out of place. I didn't know who I was. As I tried to work at Quaker, I remember one day driving my pickup down First Avenue in Cedar Rapids and seeing a group of people walking in a single file on the sidewalk by Cleveland Park. And I took my truck and jumped the curb and tried to run over them because they reminded me of the Viet Cong going down to the trails. And some things like that happened. I went deer hunting, and I had my gun down, look at a deer, and the deer turned into a black pajama Viet Cong. It blew my mind. I didn't know how to deal with it. I lost my first marriage. I couldn't keep a job for about 3 or 4 jobs after that. And then I met some Vietnam veterans that were friends of mine, and we started meeting in a group, and I finally could smoke it because it was in a hookah pipe with water, because I didn't smoke cigarettes. That was hard on my throat. And we started smoking marijuana, and all of a sudden my life changed. I kept a job. I got remarried. I've been married for 44 years to a wonderful lady. I created businesses. I started doing things that I didn't even know I was capable of. I started Weeder Dealer Magazine, the first buy-seller trade magazine in 1976. I had Yankee Trader Antiques. We imported antiques and art from Europe. And then I started Midwest Gallery and Framing, and I published limited edition art, wildlife art, and framed all out of the frame for Ducks Unlimited banquets in 7 states. Then I sold that, and then moved into affordable plumbing and remodeling, and started a plumbing business and remodeling business. We did kitchen and bath remodelings. We did my remodels, $150,000 remodels. And my daughter owns that, by the way, now, and she owns a lock, stock, and barrel. I'm so proud of her. But I had to stop off and on smoking because of the fear. I don't know what you guys know it's like. In 68, 69, it was hard to get. And it wasn't very good. It was about $12 back then compared to the 400. And a lot of seeds and stems, and we had to deal with it. But with smoking, it helped. And you had to be careful what you did during the day, because how it affected you. Because I was not a stoner, I'm not a druggie, I'm not that type of person. And so, as we proceeded on, then I decided, can I stop doing this? Can I quit smoking it and still survive? Well, I did, and it wasn't easy. It was for my children, because I didn't want my children to know their dad smoked marijuana behind closed doors. And I stopped, but I got, like he said, real irritable. My temperature went up, and I was really hard on my kids. My kids were suffering because of it. My business was suffering because of it. And so then I'd try and go back to it again, and it would help me. And then I'd try and leave it again, because it's against the law. Because, you know, us Vietnam veterans, we all went in the closet like gay men. We had fear of people hating us for being Vietnam veterans. We had fear for trying to help ourselves with something we didn't understand. And then about 2008, I hadn't smoked it for about 10 years, and I was really struggling. In 2008, we had a huge disaster in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I had a business down on First Avenue, and I got 4 foot of water went through my business and destroyed it. I lost about $500,000 in 24 hours. Lost everything that I built for retirement. And I remember being up on the hill and reaching the National Guard guy, and the guy said, I can't go down to your building. I just went. What's he going to do to me? I've been in a war. I wasn't scared. I had to get to my building. Well, that was a mistake, because I got down the building and opened the door, and it really affected me emotionally. And that night I ended up in the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. It was one of the biggest anxiety attacks I've ever had in my life. That night the dreams started coming back from Vietnam. Weird dreams, because I was a riverboat guy in the Mekong Dell in Da Nang in brown water. You know, those dreams come back. And so I went to the VA, talked to them. They want to do what he said. They want to give you all this medicine, which doesn't work. And I was just having all this anxiety problems, and I started smoking it again. And just all of a sudden my anxiety slowed down. I started feeling better. And at that process, I started this small business flood recovery group in my kitchen 2 days after the flood, and got all the business leaders together. We had 5,000 people out at Local 405, and Reverend Smith showed up from the SBA, and he was in Mekong Dell the same time I was. It was kind of interesting for us to meet and talk. And I started this, and I got in the process with some other people and started saving Cedar Rapids businesses and jobs. And I knew and they wanted me to run for city council, but they didn't know I had smoked that stuff again. And it was really hard on me, and Ron Corbett came to me and wanted me to run, and some other people, and I'm going, I don't know, because they wanted me to work with flood recovery. And so I stopped, because I didn't want to be on council and have that hanging over my head, you know. I don't know if you guys understand which anxiety is the worst. The anxiety of doing something illegal when you've never been in prison or jail or anything, you've never done anything illegal, and the anxiety of the PTSD. It's an unbelievable battle. And so I quit for 4 years, and during the council thing, there was anxiety on that. It kind of blew my mind, because it wasn't going away right away, the PTSD. The VA gave me these pills at night that were supposed to help me with my dreams, but I had a smoke detector go off a month ago and never even heard it. My wife told me about it. She got all freaked out. I mean, these medicines made me groggy and tired, and I wasn't responding well. And I was still struggling with my temper a little bit, working in government. Some of you guys know it. There's a little intensity going on in government, and it's tough, and a little bullying, a little pushing, a little shoving, and I was struggling with it. So I didn't run again. And I tell you the honest truth, I could have run and won, because the people really liked what I was doing, because I'm just a common sense, blue collar guy. And I was doing really good things for my city, because I really wanted to give back to my community. And so I had to quit, because I had to smoke some again. And I couldn't live with that problem of back and forth. It just drove me nuts. And so that's where I'm at today. I'm trying to control it, but I think it's really important that we get this, so medical marijuana is legalized, so it helps these Iraqi veterans or the ones that have died. I had two friends, Jim Hamer and David Wright, 12 years of both hanged themselves within a month of each other, both Vietnam veterans I had smoked with in that house that also quit like I did and gave up. Jim wrote me a little note. He said, Don, he said, I can't take the demons anymore. And he hung himself in his garage. And, for them, we gotta do this.
Don, are you thinking about moving to Colorado?
No, I thought about it, but I got children here and family, and I really love my community in the state of Iowa. And I'm gonna probably, I don't know what's gonna happen. I've got to do this. I've got to smoke it, and I'm gonna probably, I don't know, hope I don't end up in jail.
How close were you to actually just, leaving your family, moving to Colorado?
I almost committed suicide, probably at least 8 times in my life, in a car, in the garage with the carbon monoxide. The most recent was about 3 years ago. And you can't control that anxiety, that pressure. As soon as I was listening to Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven in the truck, and I talked myself out of it, got out, smoked some, and I was okay. It blew my mind how the anxiety went away, and I started feeling good about myself. And I told my wife, and I went down to the VA and talked to the counselors again. I'm on disability for PTSD right now from the Vietnam War. And PTSD affects veterans differently. Some don't even get it in there in the war, and some of us do. And it just must be my heart. But that's how it is.
Other questions?
Senator, you've pushed this issue for quite some time, but you've also known that the administration has been opposed from this. What's different now, or what's this going to do moving forward, and what are you going to do to try to move this issue
Well,
forward?
let me start by thanking Logan and Don and Rachel for being here. I mean, it's pretty clear that the stories we've heard today and the stories from other Iowans, some of our friends, Maria and Sally and Kim and Connie, families that would like us to move ahead. Those stories, I think, are moving this debate forward, and those are the stories that I think resonate with legislators. So, Rachel being in the state and being willing to come up, we thought we'd invite a few other people to come, and having Don and Logan here as part of this. So, I think our work is continue to try and tell the story of why we need to act, and they couldn't be done any better than by the people you've heard from this morning.
Senator, do you feel like you've made progress on this issue during this session?
Yeah, I do. I think we've made terrific progress on it. Is it enough for the folks in this room? No. But I think there's a level of awareness among the public for sure, but of legislators that we need to act.
Do you think Chairman Spiker's editorial this weekend signals some sort of change, or are you hoping that signals some sort of change?
Well, I know Logan's a Republican. I don't know everybody else is. I don't know if Sam. I don't think people's medical problems are really affected by their party registration. And while I do think it was helpful for Mr. Spiker to articulate a viewpoint about this as a leading Republican, I think that we ought to be making progress on this to help Iowans from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, all ages, all kinds of medical issues that frankly have received, the people that have talked to you, the people in this room, they've received the best medical care available. They've taken the most refined, best pharmaceutical concoctions man has ever made, and they're still not getting their needs met. And I think Rachel said it pretty simply. It's a simple plant and it's simple medicine.
What do you think about the...
And they need access to it.
What do you think about the political backlash to Chairman Spiker's editorial?
Again, 81% of Iowans, including 68% Republicans in the most recent Quinnipiac University poll, said Iowa should develop a medical cannabis program when people have a prescription from their doctor. That's pretty solid support. among people in Iowa. And so, I mean, if it took some courage for Mr. Spiker to write that, God bless him.
Elected officials really start paying attention, I think, when it becomes an issue that could win them or lose them votes. Do you think that medical marijuana is that issue yet, or is that important of an issue right now, that people will vote on this?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think that there was this hesitation to move forward this session because it's an election year, right? So everybody's kind of in a defensive mode. I think that the people in this room are going to want to try and make this an issue that candidates have to have a position on as we go into the fall election. So I think it's kind of flipped in that, and I think in the governor's, the statewide races, especially the governor's race, you know, the legislature can figure this out, but unless we have a governor willing to sign legislation creating a program and protections for people, we're not going to really make progress. So I think it is going to be an issue in that race for sure, and I think candidates running for the General Assembly this year better have a position when they get asked about it, because I think it's going to come up as a.
You think the current governor is a roadblock to?
I think the current governor is a roadblock. He is.
When you reference a poll that says 81% of the people of the state of Iowa are for this, I mean, simple math says if you're running for votes, don't you want to appeal to the majority? I mean, I don't understand, I don't get it at all. You know, and there's arguments about they're worried about this abuse or that abuse, and there's accessories in our house called medicine cabinets that are full of the potential for abuse. You know, and do we need another year to study? The study's been done, the information's here, read it and act on it. I don't understand, this shouldn't even be going on right now. We should be moving forward. People are suffering in the state of Iowa.
You know, I want to tell you one other thing too, that this plant is made by God. It isn't meth or crack or cigarettes or alcohol, it's drugs made by men. This plant was made by God, and the Republicans are supposed to be God-fearing people. Why don't they wake up and let us have what God made for us to have to use when we need it? I don't understand this concept. God created it. He rested on the seventh day and said all is well. So maybe Governor Branstad needs to realize to get off his hind end and start believing in his own God. That's all I have to say about that. I really believe in it.
Any other questions? We're gonna thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming, and we're gonna move down to room 22. Some families and patients and folks are gonna be down there meeting with members of the legislature this morning. Thank you very much.